live stream is starting. Good morning and welcome to Springboard Your Biz TV. My name is Evan Sanchez and I'll be your host today as we talk about mindset shifts for peak performance in sales. You know, 2021, 2020, all these years over this, coronavirus time, I guess you'd call it, has really caused havoc on our economy, our way of life, the way we do things, and I think that no industry out there has felt the pain as much as sales. Last year, sales was a complete bloodbath as people were let go and sales managers were still trying to make the number. And coming into this year, most of the people that I've spoken to, if you're not in real estate and selling homes, you are still having a pretty tough time getting people to, one, pay attention, or being able to get in front of people, or being able to have some kind of consistency that allows you to go out and grow your business. So we're going to talk a lot about that today, and I brought on a very special guest. His name is Gene June. Gene is the Chief Revenue Officer for ThinkX, and he has over 25 years in sales management from a multi-million-dollar strategic sales solutions standpoint in the human capital management field. He also has worked in the SaaS industry, and his team sales has totaled over $1 billion and is still growing as we speak today. So, Gene, thanks so much for being on the show. Welcome.
Evan, it's a pleasure seeing you, my friend. Thank you for the privilege of being on. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to talking to you some more and, sharing with you some pains and some joys maybe that we're seeing out there in the market. So, what are some of the challenges that you've seen, 2020, even into 2021, that has affected sales or any of your salespeople that you've been working with?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, kind of the world went a little upside down for all of us, I guess. I think it's affected just not the selling side of it, but I think it's affected the family side of it as well, because, the majority of salespeople are out there, making deals, entertaining, they're on the road. And, COVID took a large, I guess, for lack of a better words, number of arrows out of their quiver on how to execute. But I do think there's been an upside to it. I think there's been a lot of focus on increasing their games as well. I know I've tried to do that and really try to take a look at how I can be better on a performance level on a day-to-day basis. And you have more time as well. The commutes are gone. The office is gone. And I think it's just been a real opportunity to look internally to get better and really try to take this, terrible pandemic, I guess, and make it a positive.
Well, I guess that's why you're the Chief Revenue Officer, because that's what salespeople are known for, sometimes to their own demise of being a little bit too optimistic, but it doesn't hurt in situations like today, right?
No, it really doesn't. And these are all new challenges. I mean, you and I have never lived through this before, right? And people are dealing with it in different ways and trying to come up with creative strategies to still engage sales, and especially with the large ticket items, which requires an enormous amount of face time. It's been quite a challenge.
Yeah, and I think that's really, why I wanted to talk a little bit about the mindset shifts, right? So, there's some good things that have come out of it, then there's some negative things. Obviously, one of the biggest is the amount of stress that, everyone is living under whenever you've got, it used to be just 3 months out of the summer, right, whenever kids were at home. Now we're working with, kids at home, family at home, salespeople are at home. There's a real different level of stress that we're having to deal with on a day-to-day basis.
It's so funny you said it, because what we do is stressful anyway, right? Day in and day out quotas and achievement and very tangible, measurable performance. But, people handle it in very different ways. One of our clients was a professional soccer player, and this guy got paid to do penalty kicks. Now, I can't think of a more high pressure situation, to win games at a professional level, and went into sales, and the anxiety and stress almost killed him.
Right.
So it is, it's a different mindset. It's a different way to do it. And it's a grind day in and day out. So I applaud all the salespeople out there carrying the bags and and live in that vocation.
Yeah, well, it's that whole you're out of your element thing, right? I'm sure if he were in sales in a normal environment, he would have a natural rhythm, his, activities of daily living, right, that he goes through. But all of those things were interrupted. And, for somebody who's high pressure, he definitely understands he's probably kicked that penalty kick, maybe 100,000 times. I can remember myself practicing that over and over and over and over. And then, of course, you have the pressure of the game that comes into play. So the guy can handle pressure. He's in the right role. But when it comes to mixing it up, like let's say he had to take the penalty shot from, the 30-yard line or something like that, obviously his performance is going to suffer. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing.
Yeah, and we were able to help him at ThinkX, really take the anxiety level down and really be able to focus his great energies and his great talent and really utilize that professional history as an asset for his performance.
Yeah, so, when that's going on, since we're talking about mindset shifts, I know you can't get into too much detail as far as, what somebody is working on within their coaching or how that individual was helped specifically, but what are some of the major mindset shifts that you're seeing that are helping people deal with the sales environment that we're in today?
Well, I think naturally with the environment, that you mentioned it earlier, that the stress has skyrocketed. And one of the things that I think that we do at ThinkX, it's a little bit different. Well, actually, it's dramatically different than everything else is out there, is that this is the first diagnostic tool that I've ever been exposed to that actually measures the way that somebody thinks. It's called root source thinking. And over the years, I've employed so many different outside sales groups to come in and help my sales teams. And it works for a little while. They alter processes, they get more, get things in place, they give tools, they give manuals, things like that. But inevitably, in a 3, 4, or 5 month period, the sales folks go back to what they were doing because we haven't changed the way that they think. And they still have, maybe a high level of self-doubt, or maybe they have too much of a skepticism, or whatever the case is. Maybe there's too much ambition. That ThinkX actually can mitigate the negative drivers, we call them, and accentuate the positive drivers, and really turn a sales professional into a great mindset to be able to tackle the day-to-day grind, to be able to reduce anxiety dramatically, and be able to really get to their peak performance. It's a very different thing when you can change your subconscious thinking on a permanent basis versus just adding different processes in place that you may or may not be using 6 months down the road.
Yeah, so you just said a key word, and I think that baffles a lot of people too when they hear it, is the whole word your subconscious, right? Your self-talk. How do you go about changing something like that? What's the process for changing your self-talk?
Well, you have to change the way that you think. It's a process called neuroplasticity, and basically you have to retrain your brain in a certain amount of process, right? And how the brain operates going from A all the way to Z. And it's a proven science, and actually patented. Yeah, exactly, on understanding the science. So, once we can change, and the iceberg is a very appropriate slide, the 90% that's underneath the water, then the 10% that remains above the water is going to change dramatically, and people are going to get better. They're going to be more successful. The financial rewards will come. Mitigated to where they're not bringing it into a family situation, especially working from home, as so many people still are. So it's a really, really big win. And I think one of the things that we've been able to prove, we actually just published a paper on it, is that this process, while it only takes about a 3-month period, the lasting effectiveness has been proven. So we went back and remeasured these folks, that we changed their root source thinking dramatically into a much more positive environment, and then 18 months later it was still there. And that's the great thing about it.
Yeah, I think that's the key to the whole subconscious part, is that whole part about beliefs, right? Like you've said, okay, it can take up to 3 months, but I also know that, if you learn something new, it can automatically be traded up. So I call that, it could be as fast as an aha moment, right? But then it could also be something that's so, let's say, unnatural for the person as far as their thinking, where it could actually think or take the 3 months of thinking differently or teaching yourself to think differently for that to actually stick. But once it does, then you're done.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good point because, day one, you can see, positive effects when you begin this process. And I think the other thing, Evan, we've talked about it briefly in the past, but that's exciting is usually this type of diagnostic and then a follow-up with master executive level coaching has only been available to a very high level group of people within a company, right? Because there's a serious cost with master executive coaching associated with it. And we've been able to deliver a technology enabled coaching where this is now available to the masses at a very affordable price. So I think that's something that we're extremely proud of, that everybody has access to really get into a new way of positive thinking that will enhance their personal and work life.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm really excited about that whole feature. I know, when you get into high level executive coaching, like you said, there's only a certain piece or, element of leaders at the top who kind of get exposed to this type of training on a usual basis. But with some of your tools that you've kind of reconfigured, you're going to be able to bring that to a much more affordable price point so that other people beyond just the top leadership team or beyond just the directors will actually get to help transfer the way that they're thinking into a more effective and efficient way of thinking, which then translates into improved performance. So, how is that different than what the higher level coaching or executives were getting in the past?
Well, it's the same exact process. It's just been technology enabled, and it's like a drip sequence in text messages that are consistently brought out to the person going through the actual coaching event. I think where this really comes into play, to your point on the sales side of it, is you and I both know that sales is a very unique part of any organization. It is the only part of any organization that can be penalized twice. And what I mean by that is that you have a perpetual performer at 70-75% year in and year out, and you've done whatever you can possibly do to get that person up and running. You decide, okay, well, we run the course with it, right? We go out and hire someone, and that hire doesn't work out. So I've lost 75% of the quota, and I've lost the ramp up time with the hire, and it's a double penalty. So if we can put that person at 75% through an affordable coaching program and change the way that they think, and take that 75% person and bring them to a 100% person, in other words, take an average and make them good, or take a good and make them great, that is a huge win for the sales organization, and that's part of our mantra.
Yeah, and I think, you also have the ability to, if you're helping somebody with their thinking, and you can correct me here if I'm wrong, but in the thinking, some of the subconscious barriers that will actually keep somebody from adopting a new sales methodology or adopting the use of the CRM or adopting a new way to approach a different segmentation of the market, is that the salesperson has a high controlling or a very skeptical thinking pattern. And that thinking pattern actually gets in the way of them adopting these changes. So, just being able to improve their thinking and allowing them to maybe see past their normal tendencies to reject something new, that means that they may also be able to start utilizing some of those other things when they become more accepting that they may have been trained on in the past. So if there's been a sales training or there's been a leadership training or a new product or something like that that they didn't believe in because of these subconscious barriers, when they help to resolve those issues that they have, then those things can actually shine through, correct? Kind of recapturing some lost ROI?
Yeah, I wouldn't change any of that. That's perfect. You do such a good job of cutting to the chase on this. And Evan, as you get your clients and change their worlds from a sales team standpoint and make them champs, it's interesting as you fine tune this whole process, we see different profiles, for lack of a better choice of words, even geographically. So, high controlling may not work for a salesperson in Texas, but high controlling may not be so bad for that salesperson in New York City or Boston. So, there's different areas where you really have to specify and really look at the not just the person as a individual, but also the environmental surroundings of that individual and how they work on a day in and day out basis, and the prospects they contact and the contracts they have to go through and the hurdles they have to jump. So it's really fascinating to fine tune this on such an individual person by person basis, for lack of a better choice of words.
Yeah, so, going back to, the fact that you've made this scalable, right? You've made it affordable for not just the top leadership, but for large scale sales teams, say of 100 or 200 people. We could actually send a team of 200 people through this program in a matter of weeks, correct?
That is correct. And, I think with the world that we're living in now, especially as things kind of return a little bit to normal, we all hope, the technology-enabled coaching, people are using their phones, right? Mm-hmm. They're using their iPads. They're looking at it while they're on planes. They're looking at it while they commute on trains, whatever the case is. So it's really been, we think, enabling to a much larger population, not just because of the economics, but because of the delivery. Because if you got one-on-one coaching with a master coach, then I've got to be at my desk at 2 o'clock, on Wednesday afternoon. With this particular case, I can actually modify it to fit into my schedule, have the same effectiveness, and really customize it to my needs.
Yeah, so you got the on-demand effect. So what else about ThinkX makes this a SaaS solution? So, we talk about it from a coaching standpoint and it being scalable, being able to put out to the masses, but what else makes this a SaaS solution?
Well, everything's delivered from a SaaS concept, and everything is automated. I think the cool part about it is that, if you were to look at it in a certain way, is that the technology-enabled coaching, which we call Activate, is delivered specific to that individual's diagnostic scores. So it's not like one size fits all right? So if I have issues with controlling, oh, perfect, thank you. If I have issues with controlling, or I'm too skeptical, or I'm dealing with a lot of self-doubt, those issues are dealt with initially and directly in the process of the automated coaching. And we're also actually doing a hybrid as well, where individuals can go through this. Perfect, thank you. And deal with these different drivers, and then we can have a coach do what we call an activate check, to where we can go in and see how they're doing, answer any questions for them, offer some encouraging words, some expertise, etc. on top of this. So we've got the one-on-one coaching with obviously as a byproduct of the great ThinkX Diagnostic Discover, and then we have the technology-enabled coaching, and then we have a hybrid of both as well. So we think we've got a little a shoe to fit everybody.
Gotcha. So let's talk about some of these mindset shifts. I started a new series called Mindset Minutes, and the main reason that I started that is just because there are so many, different ways to look at performance, right? So many times whenever, people call us for sales training, one of the major questions they ask is, well, what's the ROI going to be? And, as a consultant, I'm sitting there looking, okay, well, I can deliver a 10 on the sales training side as far as the capability development, but internally, if the company doesn't have, processes and systems and extended coaching and an environment that's going to support those new behaviors, then the outcome, if it's a 10 on the training side and it's a 5 on the environment to support that new training, well, you're looking at, 10 times 5 is 50. We want to make the environment a 10, right? So we can get a 10 times 10 equals 100%. And then I can actually get that, guarantee, and I can tell them, hey, you're going to get a very strong ROI here if the environment matches. And inevitably, there are still those times where something just doesn't quite work out. And, where I'm kind of coming into the belief and learning and working with ThinkX is that there are just some people that you aren't going to get through to. There are just some people that are, stuck in their ways, that are resistant to change, and they're just not going to do anything more. So the leader has to think a little bit different, right?
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but it's also a part of what we do. And you're right, there are some barriers that you can't break through. But it's interesting, that screen that you just had up, though, is that we can help with the transition process. And what we do is also at ThinkX is we will take the best players, the people that you've changed their mindsets, right? And they're performing at an exceptional level. And they can take the ThinkX Discover Diagnostic and maybe 3, 4, 5 of the best performers are out there. And we in turn can create what's called a top performer template. And that top performer template will show the ranges of each of the drivers. Self-doubt, yeah, perfect. Self-doubt, ambition, confidence, all the good drivers and the bad drivers, and give a range to that hiring manager that if a hiring candidate takes the diagnostic, ThinkX Discover, and falls within these ranges, there is a really, really high, we're talking about 90% plus, chance that that individual is going to fit in culturally and also perform at an outstanding level. So I appreciate you bringing that up. It's a huge, huge crutch to the hiring manager to make sure that they don't get that double penalty that is specific to.
Yeah, I think one of the shifts, that I'm recommending to people is that, they go ahead and run a Discover diagnostic prior to the training. That way I can actually show them, what we believe the actual adoption will be based upon, the people that have taken the Discover diagnostic. Because if the Discover comes back that there's a bunch of, barrier type thinking, we can now include that in what we think will be the overall adoption of the capability development or adoption of a new system or a new process or a new product. So if we have people who, have those barriers in place, we can actually do some coaching beforehand, which again is only going to maximize the ROI on the outset because we'll know exactly who we're dealing with. So when people are asking me today, for guarantees on, what we're going to deliver, I'm asking them to do a Discover of the team so that we can then tell them what kind of guarantee we'll give them.
And to go through services, and then after your program's finished and the coaching on the ThinkX side is finished, we certainly, as a matter of practice, recommend taking another ThinkX Discover. And then you can actually compare where we started and where we finished. And you can see tangible results, and you can see the negative drivers, the red drivers go down, and you can see the positive drivers, the blue drivers go up. And it's really quite rewarding to see this take place in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, and that's something that's also really cool about it, is that it actually provides a quantitative measure, right? You've got an actual number that you can say, okay, this is where you were and this is where you are now after the coaching. And this coaching is more of what is traditionally known as soft skill type of work, correct?
It is correct, and it is actual tangible values. So this is not like feel-good assessment stuff. This is tangible scientific values that, and actually values that we would want to deliver to the executive leaders to say, hey, look, this is the progress that these folks are making. This is going to turn into, or it's going to turn into tangible performance enhancement, and that's just been proven over and over and over again. So it's, we're pretty sold on it.
Definitely. Well, Gene, thanks for joining me here on the show today at Springboard Your Biz TV and talking to us about ThinkX and the mindset shifts that are necessary for peak performance in sales today. My son, he had a football coach, and he used to talk about it all starts in the mind and then it finishes with your heart. And I truly believe that that is the case in business today. And I truly believe that, ThinkX is a game changer for leaders who are looking to, make a mindset shift and start to compete at a higher level. So anyone out there who is looking to reduce the stress and anxiety in their teams and bring their team to the next level of success, ThinkX can definitely take you there. So this has been another episode of Springboard Your Biz TV. Remember, you can join us and get more insights for your business at springboardyourbiz.com at any time, and I look forward to seeing you next month. Have a great one. Okay, we're clear on the stream.